right, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get this thing kicked off. I see some people still trickling in right now. Happy Friday. It is so good to be with everybody here today. Sam, let's see if we can get you here. Turn on your video. I appreciate everyone putting gratitude in the chat. Oh, it says you're Charlie. Let's rename you. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and get rolling. Thanks everybody for your patience and so happy to have you join us today. I'm Chandler Rogers. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Relay, and we're so excited to have Sam Black, the Director of Recovery Education from Covenant Eyes, here with us today. I'll just give a quick intro and then we just want to dive right into the content for today. And Sam actually texted me yesterday and we were preparing this like really formal presentation and he's like, I think we should make this more interesting than just talking at a screen for half an hour. So we're gonna make this interactive. We want you guys to be able to use the chat. We want you to be able to use the Q&A feature. So if you want to submit an anonymous question, use the Q&A feature. You should see that at the bottom of your screen. And then I think we'll probably just take questions maybe a little bit as we go along, and then we'll definitely reserve some time at the end. So we'll probably plan on about a half hour today. If you guys are able to stay longer, Sam and I are happy to stay longer for some Q&A. But we're really excited to be here with you all to celebrate the month of November. If you're here, you probably are connected in some way to the November Project. And we started the November Project really as a goal to try to lower the barriers to make it easier to overcome pornography and to find lasting healing and growth together in community. I can touch on my story a little bit, and then I want to give Sam a chance to introduce himself. But I am doing what I'm doing because I've been through this journey personally. I know how shameful and isolating it was for me for so many years, and just how frustrating and demoralizing that was. And I ended up starting the Relay app because I wanted to make it easier for myself to actually be able to have a support system that I can interact with daily and not just, share and open up one time and then, never again. So trying to make it easier to not just do this alone, but to do this together. And that's what I'm really passionate about. Now, Sam, I'm not going to read your official bio. I just want you to introduce yourself and tell the audience a little about you.
Yeah, and today we're just going to have a great conversation. We're just going to dive in and like Chandler said, if you have a question as we're talking today and as we're walking through 3 steps to prevent a relapse, go ahead and ask those. And we'll try to keep it relevant to the conversation at the time, but we're really just going to open this up and have a really engaging conversation because a talking head is just not as much fun, is it? And so I want you to remember what you're listening to. And to do that, I want this to be engaging for you. Now, my name is Sam Black. I'm the Director of Recovery Education at Covenant Eyes. Covenant Eyes is accountability software that's been around for 25 years now. But we offer tons of education and resources. We have an app called Victory. The Victory app by Covenant Eyes is free, and you can download that. And I'm going to share, I've unlocked some specific courses in that app that's going to be directly related to our conversation. So there's going to be some links that are going to help you get into that.
And Sam, I actually, just while you're introducing what you do at Covenant Eyes, I threw this on the screen just so people know, because Covenant Eyes has been a really generous supporter of the November Project and has made some of these courses and the actual Victory app free for 30 days. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for offering so many great resources.
Thank you. I've written 2 books. One is called The Porn Circuit, Understand Your Brain and Break Porn Habits. And number 2, it's called The Healing Church, What Churches Get Wrong About Pornography and How to Fix It. I admittedly come through this and my own recovery from a Christian perspective. But listen, we're gonna have this very wide open, broad conversation. And I want you to pick and choose what is effective for you. And if I say something if I start quoting scripture or something, and you're like, there's an ounce of wisdom in that, that's okay. Just take what you need, right? There's no pressure here. Chandler, let's dive in. Are you ready?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right.
And if it's okay with you, Sam, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can just make this a real conversation.
Yeah, okay. Great. So, three aspects. These are the three things I want us to remember as we are entering this three steps to preventing a relapse. We don't want to go back. It has made us feel so bad. And we have promised ourselves, we promised others, maybe we've even promised God that we would never go back to pornography again. And yet we find ourselves going back to the very things we say we don't want, right? And so here's the three things: clear, committed, connected. Again, clear, committed, and connected. And this is sort of a motto for Victory by Covenant Eyes, our team. We think about these things all the time, and they're very interconnected as well to preventing a relapse. First of all, we need to get clear because clarity begins when we understand that preventing a relapse is when we're focusing when we're strong. If we wait until the moment that everything's all this temptation, these triggers are going on, and we haven't prepared for those, we're going to be in a tough spot. It's never going to be effective to say, oh, all I do is flip this switch and I'm going to prevent a relapse. When you get so far down toward beginning that cycle of acting out, often there's not a wall big enough that you won't climb over to get your fix, right? And so it's imperative. And part of that getting clarity is to ask yourself three questions. How did I get here? Why do I seem to stay stuck? And what could I do to take meaningful steps toward freedom? These are very curious questions, right? And and they lead us to a greater understanding. And that clarity is imperative because you didn't find yourself stuck in pornography by accident, right, Chandler? This didn't happen overnight. I didn't
No.
wake up one day and go, oh man, I'm an adult. I should make good decisions now. Did you find yourself doing that?
No. Yeah, no. I mean, I remember the distinct feeling like, how did I even end up here? Like, I
Yeah.
never deliberately pursued this. I didn't seek it out. It was a gradual process over many years. And it did feel like a moral failing, though. It felt like, why can't I make better choices? And to have that then happen 1,000 times over, uh, yeah, that's where for me the shame came in strong.
Yeah. Because aren't I intelligent enough to say no to the things I don't want to do? Right? Aren't I? And I seem to be strong in uh, my career or in school or in my relationships in some ways, or I feel popular or I think whatever it is. But when it comes to pornography, you keep going back. So let's dive a little deeper in that clarity part. There are three common factors. I've seen this thousands of times over and over. This is not new to me. Counselors are showing the same thing. The three factors that are very so common in people who are struggling deeply with pornography as adults. One, early exposure to pornography as a child. And likely you never had a conversation with your parents or others that prepared you for the day that you would see pornography. Number two is the ongoing use and repetition of pornography that literally changes your neural pathways in your brain to crave it more. And three, some trauma and pain. Often it happens in childhood, but it can happen elsewhere as well. You begin to learn to self-soothe. All right, so let me I think my story can help a little bit with this. I remember being as a 10-year-old boy walking out of our home in Florida, and my brother and his friend, they were 10 years older than me, were leaning against their car and they were looking at a magazine sideways. Now, I know I'm dating myself. I've got some gray in my beard if you're just listening. um, they were looking at a magazine sideways, and that just didn't make any sense. How can you read sideways? And so I asked them what they were looking at, and they turned it around. Now, my natural curiosity at 10 years old, even though I didn't even understand the basic mechanics of sex, I stepped forward. My body physically reacted to that, and I got a little shot of something that felt good, and it was very attention grabbing. And I stepped forward. I didn't turn away. Now, I just told you a story about the first time that I saw pornography as a 10-year-old boy, and I can't tell you anything else about that day. Zero. But I can tell you a full story about the first time I saw porn. That's how neurologically hijacking this is for a child. And now what I saw was still images in a magazine. Chandler, today, what are kids seeing?
Not a magazine usually. Yeah.
Now it's violent, debasing. It's video mainly. It's so impactful. It is takes super stimulus and jumps it way higher. So impactful, right? And if you can remember that and you think about that for a minute, can I think about the first time that I remember seeing pornography? That was a setup. Uh, you didn't deserve that. And I want you to have a little bit of empathy for yourself today, that it wasn't your fault for seeing pornography. Whether you saw something and or if you actually heard somebody say some words and you searched it on a search engine or whatever else, my goodness, you just weren't prepared for that. And in society, your family, others should have protected you, but something happened that didn't happen. Okay? So have a little empathy for yourself that you just weren't prepared for that day that you first saw pornography. And number two, I had a friend. His dad had pornography that was falling out of his closet. Again, I'm dating myself a little bit here, but if you can imagine this bookshelf, not a bookshelf, but a closet, and you see that normal shelf at the top of the closet. It was stacked with pornography, and it was falling off, and there was piles of it on the floor. It sort of looked like a waterfall. I basically had a website, if you would, in one closet, and I could take anything I wanted, and I did. The third thing that repetition began. I began to see it more and more. But I also came from a hypocritically violent home. Even though it was a Christian home, it was also hypocritically violent. And when I felt fear and frustration or felt bullied at school or something else was going on, I didn't recognize that I was escaping and running to pornography, right? I didn't recognize that that was an escape. It just felt good. All the world disappeared and I was focused on one thing. And that repetition helped burn those memories in my brain and help burn that acting out into my brain. So that pornography would follow me from middle school to high school to college and into my marriage. Now, I'm among the most fortunate people you're ever going to meet because my wife was taking my babies to a church that I still attend to today. And she said, "Hey Sam, there's this marriage event class at the church I've been attending, and I know you're not going to church, but would you be willing to go with me to this marriage class?" And I knew our marriage needed help, right? And these people were weirdos, though. They are just weird. And here's what they did. This was what made him so weird. The facilitators, after the class entered the room, they closed the door, and she turns around, the couple that were doing that, and smiles at everybody and says, "This is a safe place. What is said here stays here." And in that raw opportunity for honesty, a safe place with a safe process to help us improve our marriages, people were honest. They were raw. They were vulnerable. You can't have any authenticity without vulnerability, and you can't have vulnerability without safety, right? And so people said the terrible things they said about their spouse, etc., the things they thought, said, did, and then they began to be able to heal that. Well, in that atmosphere, that's where I learned that pornography could be addictive and compulsive, and that was a great relief from my secular mindset. Evolution didn't make me this way, right? And God didn't make me this way. And that was meant I didn't have to stay this way. And so with relationship, right, we talked about becoming clear, understanding that I don't have to be made this way, becoming committed that I don't want to stay this way, and being connected to other men in that class who says, Sam, I get you. I've been there myself. I'll walk with you. And that connection makes all the difference in the world because I expected them to say, Sam, you're dirty. You're ugly. I can't believe you do that. You're not really one of us. You can't be part of us. But instead, they said, man, I am meeting you right where you are. I know where you're at and I love you. Now that gives me power to be more committed, more connected, and more clear about the next steps I need to take toward change. Before I go any further, any questions so far as we've gotten to getting clear? I am totally ignoring the chat because I have ADHD and I will go squirrel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, there's a lot of messages in the chat, but I mean, one question that maybe we could go into, Sam, is I feel like there's really two parts of this getting clear. There's an initial awakening of
Yeah.
I'm aware that I have a problem, or that I'm at a
Mm.
point that I didn't anticipate being at, or I
Hmm.
want to move in a direction that's different than where I'm at right now. So I'm here, and maybe I have some awareness on how I got here. Maybe I'm still trying to figure it out. But what about those of us that this isn't maybe the first awareness, the first awakening, right? So I have that awareness, that desire, but now I'm on this path, and I know we're going to get into commitment and other things, but um, like, yeah, what does it look like to continue to get clear when I feel like I've been clear on this for a while? I know what I want to change, but I still keep relapsing, or I still keep getting stuck.
Yeah, there's probably some things that need to be healed, right? And you might want to see a professional counselor. One things I recommend is a CSAT or a CSAS counselor that can maybe talk you through some things. Listen, I just went to the Samson Society annual retreat. If you want to know what Samson Society is about, it's a organization of Christian men who are fighting together to bring restoration and recovery to their lives. They're working together, right? SamsonSociety.com. All right. Um, but this is a journey. It's not I just figured something out and now I get to stop.
Yeah, not a one
It,
time
it's
a one
it
time
is
event. Yeah.
it is a journey, and relapse is actually something we can learn from. So we'll jump that's going to come at the end. We're going to walk through what does it mean to investigate a relapse. We're going to do what I call a crash investigation, right? All right, let me go to number two, and that's being committed. Committed. And I have to want to do this for me. Now, my wife might have said, "Hey, I don't really like this. This isn't good for us." But until I wanted it for myself, nothing was really going to change, right? And so that that commitment comes with the clarity of why am I doing this? And I encourage you to get out a sheet of paper and write out all the reasons why you want to leave pornography behind. And that might look very unique for you. Keep that sheet around and just keep adding to it. Create a clarity of commitment of why this matters to me, of why I want to change. Now, the other part of commitment is right now, after you're watching this podcast, you might be going, man, I feel on fire. I think I'm really feeling stronger now. I've listened to some suggestions. I think I've gotten some clarity and understanding of why pornography can have a hold on me. This is the time to act because if you wait and act when you're weak or being triggered or being pushed toward pornography, that's a little late. So act while you're strong. Ask yourself some things like, what devices do I find myself using pornography on? Do I have any secret stashes? Do I have a private way that I hide my use of pornography? Are there things that, whether it's streaming services that I use that seem to trigger me sexually? Hmm.
Or
So
social media.
I'm sorry,
Or social media
or social
these days.
media,
Mhm.
right? What apps are on my device? What streaming services? Take a look at where you struggle and ask myself, can I do something? Can I unsubscribe? That says, oh, Sam, but I love the other stuff on there. So are you committed or are you not committed? So kill off the apps. If you need to take a break from social media for 6 months, do that. Why set yourself up for failure? And that's part of the commitment factor. Want it for myself, identify the reasons I want it for myself, and then take action to put some roadblocks or even speed bumps at minimum into that space. So, I still use, uh, this is interesting. I talked to a number of guys at the Samson Society annual retreat. And again, it's fresh on my mind. So I was just there this past weekend. And the number of guys I talked to that said, oh, yeah, I've been using Covenant Eyes for 20 years now. I've been using what's called the Victory app by Covenant Eyes now. And so I'm accountable to someone else about how I use my devices. And do I struggle the way I used to struggle? No, but I keep in place the things that help me start this recovery. And I think that's powerful. So that may look different from you. Whether it's you're using some accountability software, or you're using an app to help have these ongoing conversations, whether you are committed to having a conversation on a weekly basis or at minimum monthly. For instance, I've been at Covenant Eyes for 19 years. I've been on this recovery journey for decades. And on Wednesday morning, I get to talk to my best buddy who's, you know, every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m., we have a conversation. And I let him know how I'm doing. Now we get together for doing other things as well. It's just not that. But 7 a.m., man, I called up and said, hey, Danny, I'm doing great this week. This is what's going on in my life. This is what I'm thinking about. And we do four things. What am I feeling? What am I thinking? What am I doing? And what am I thinking of doing? Because what I'm feeling is probably going to lead to what I'm thinking. And what I'm thinking leads to what I'm thinking of doing or doing, right? So have set things up while you're strong, create dynamics in your life that bolster your recovery rather than leaving you alone, separated, and weak.
But
Yes.
Sam, but
Yeah.
Sam, you're telling me you don't just reach out to Danny when you feel weak or tempted? You actually
Oh,
proactively talk to Danny?
right.
That's a crazy concept.
And here's the
I'm being a
thing.
little sarcastic, but yeah, I think that's what's interesting is I remember first joining a group or getting an accountability partner, and the all that I really knew how to do with that was to reach out when I was feeling an urge, when I was feeling more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're describing, I've also seen to be a very powerful practice of learning how to not just articulate how my sobriety is going, but the things that you talked about, how I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, what's going on for me, yeah, what's up ahead, what am I
Yeah.
thinking of doing? I love that. Like what I hear you talking about is how to share in your support system with people you have supporting you, how to really share and be vulnerable in a
Mm-hmm.
more comprehensive way. Because I think the skill that most of you listening, all of us can probably improve at this skill, is learning how to be aware and to feel our emotions and be have awareness around what's actually going on underneath the surface, and then to be able to put words behind that. Most of us didn't grow up with a lot of like being taught how to put verbiage to our emotions or to our internal experiences. So we got to first figure out how to do that individually, and then what you're saying, Sam, to do that proactively, not reactively as a
Yeah.
strategy.
That's the connected part, right? The commitment leads to the we have to have that. These all three things go keep circling each other. They're like a molecule that just keeps pushing around, the different atoms around each other, or an atom with all the molecules going around each other, right? So clear is always connected to being committed. Committed is always connected to being connected, right? So um, that creates both a preventative factor to being connected as well as a restorative factor. So we've just got some minutes left. So let's walk into the restorative factor, and and Chandler, you're going to be my ally. And I'm going to come to you and say, man, things have been a little rough. Now, we've been having our meetings, and that has given me, emboldened me. In the past, has really helped me prevent that. Oh, I'm going to be talking to Chandler on Wednesday, and I don't really want to have this conversation. And that has been a big help for me. But I've had a particularly bad day, and last night I watched porn. I stayed up late and watched porn after everybody else was in bed. And Chandler, that sucks, doesn't it? And at
Yep.
this point, you go, "Yeah, that's
Been
really
there.
bad, Sam. Don't do that anymore."
Yeah, Sam, you're bad. You're terrible. Yeah,
Right. Chandler's not going to do that. He wants
of
the
course
best
not.
for
Yeah.
me. He knows my weaknesses. He knows my strengths. He knows my goals. And he wants to see me succeed. He's my ally. That's what we
Mm,
call an accountability partner at Covenant Eyes. It's an ally because they want to see you succeed.
mm,
But Chandler's smart enough. He's going to ask some questions like, well, Sam, you stayed up late. Why? In the past, that has been a trigger for you in the past. Why didn't you go to bed with your wife? And I'd say, well, my wife and I were a little on the outs because I came home from work being really grumpy. And you're like, so what happened there? Well, I just had a bad day at work. You had a bad day at work. And so let me get this right. You had a bad day at work and then you stayed up late to watch pornography. Well, that's not exactly how it is. She went to another room. I went to another room, and I got a couple of beers out, and ha I started having some alcohol. Okay. Sam, in the past, has alcohol been an impact on whether you make good decisions or bad decisions for your recovery? Right? We're beginning to do this crash investigation that says, Sam, you had a crash. Let's open up the black box and find out what happened. Because when a crash happens, the FAA comes in, they dig through the wreckage and they pull out the black box and they want to find what happened. They're not looking necessarily for someone, oh, this was your fault. You shouldn't have done that. Shame on you. They want to know what happened so it can be prevented in the future. So already Chandler has helped me unveil that I stayed up late. That's triggering for me. Uh, that I was having some conflict, and that can make me feel unloved, unwanted, unneeded, less than. And then to soothe those feelings, I used an escape of alcohol. And now alcohol is changing the dynamic of how I'm thinking, right? So I'm not only tired and facing some decision fatigue, I'm also numbing my senses. All right. But Chandler's not done yet. Chandler says, "Hey, Sam, what happened at that you were so ticked off?" Well, I had a bad day at work because my boss yelled at me. I missed a deadline. And, we're financially struggling at home anyway. And I didn't want my wife to worry about me losing my job. And, you can see this compounding effect of pressure and anxiety and stress. And Chandler said, "Well, tell me, Sam, how'd that feel when your boss is yelling at you?" Oh, I felt like a little kid. That kid that my dad would yell at me, call me a stupid idiot, that I couldn't do anything right. this is really actually real in my life, right? So, um, whatever that looked like for you, Chandler's helping me understand that, okay, and as a child, what would happen? How did you react? Oh, Chandler, remember I had a friend and his dad had pornography falling out of his closet. Yeah, I totally used pornography on many of those days. All right, Sam. So we see some struggle and some stress, some self-soothing behaviors, and staying up late and being distancing from yourself. What could you do next time to prevent this relapse? How could you be more clear, committed, and connected? One, Number one is I can become clear and begin naming the emotions I'm feeling. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling unwanted. I'm feeling less than worthy. And really be able to sit with those emotions and recognize, hey, or uh, this has happened in my life where I said, man, I'm really feeling lustful. I'm really feeling tempted toward pornography. And I asked myself, Sam, why are you feeling tempted? And I began thinking, oh, well, earlier in the day, my boss yelled at me, or whatever it was. Someone cut me off in traffic, or I had a confrontation with a store clerk, whatever it is. I don't know what it is. It doesn't matter at the moment. These can be very triggering episodes. Because I grew up in that abusive home, remember, uh, one thing was a story of there was an old rope that was sitting in the back of our truck for a while, and it got thrown into our shed in Florida. And it was a gnarly, messy hemp rope. And my dad wanted me to coil it. And he says, coil that, please coil that rope. I don't think he said please. He never said please. But so I began to wrap it over, hand over elbow, hand over elbow, right? And he said, no, 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 do it hand over hand. And I'd never done that before at 12 years old. And this rope is such a mess that it begins to kink and twist and turn. And every time it kinks and twists and turns, he hits me in the head and the back and the face and tells me I'm stupid and I'm an idiot and I can't get anything done right. Now I'm telling you this, don't get worried about Sam right now. I've been able to process with guys like Chandler in my life. I've been able to do this in Samson Society groups, right? So, um, what would happen when I was an adult? I had cords and ropes, and it would so happen that as I would coil a rope or an extension cord, I'd become angry and bitter, right? And it was likely, very likely, later that day, I would find myself wanting pornography. So, what I learned in both counseling, accountability, putting things in place was I could live in the present and didn't have to fall back into the past. Now, this takes a lot, this is part of the journey, right? And so I would sing like, how deep the Father's love for us while I'm
Oh, that's
coiling this
great.
rope, right? And so um, that kept me in the present. And I could say, yes, I am, I recognize that that's a bitter memory for me. That's a hurtful memory. And I didn't deserve that pain. And today I'm going to live in the present instead of living in the past and then running to pornography to self-soothe. Right. So then that's identifying those emotions, being curious about why you're being tempted. That's a big part. But separate, Chandler can say, hey, Sam, next time you're feeling that way, could you give me a call? I've given you permission. In fact, Chandler said, Sam, there's a special relationship we have, and you can call me at any time. And if it's late or something and we can only do a text, maybe we meet the next day. And so, as we talked about having this conversation before and Chandler walking me through why I might have relapsed, we didn't meet at a restaurant with bacon and eggs and a crowd. We would get some coffee and we'd sit in his car. We'd find a spot that we could be safe and private and have a good discussion, right? Now, this can happen in groups as well. Um, that's why I wrote The Healing Church, because I think that we must within our homes of houses of worship create a safe place and a safe process where people can come as they are, but they are loved too much just to be left to stay as they are, right? And we need guides and we need direction because I built a cage of my own making. I built it bar by bar and brick by brick, and I pulled the door closed and I locked it. And I threw away the key. And guess what? Nobody keeps the key. And until I could have someone like Chandler walk over and say, Sam, are you ready to walk out of this? Are you ready to walk out of this jail? Let me show you the key. Let's walk the key. Because even if I got out of that, even if the door got opened, whenever the right triggers would happen, I could run back into my cage and my corner of depravity, right? Because what was familiar was easier than change. And this journey is not for the faint of heart. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some commitment and clarity and connection that you have to just barrel into, right?
Well, and if I could add one thing real quick, Sam,
Yeah.
as we're talking through these examples and these stories of not only a crash investigation trying to learn from relapses, but just in general developing these muscles, these skills of curiosity and
Mm-hmm.
compassion. I've seen this to be true in so many people that I've worked with. Um, it is so hard to do that for yourself when you feel like you've been here a million times. It's like this is the umpteenth time I've crashed the plane. It feels just like every other time. What is there to learn anymore? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I know I'm stressed. I know I've got X, Y, and Z going on. I know that I'm triggered by this or that. And I just want to say if you can relate to that at all listening to this, I think the opportunity for you there is to learn how to feel more compassion and
Mm.
curiosity for yourself in that
Yes.
moment. That might be the
Absolutely.
lesson itself. You might not have a big insight like, oh, it was that conversation that triggered me, or it was that emotion that stemmed from that thing that happened at work. You may not have those grand insights every single time, but as you flex these muscles of curiosity and compassion for yourself, and I would say compassion for your younger self when you first got into this, like Sam said, when you weren't prepared for this, and it wasn't your fault, but it
Mm-hmm.
is your responsibility now to own your healing journey. I just think we can't understate the importance of those two things, curiosity and compassion. And on the group side of things and having the support ally, um, I've found that it is a lot easier to develop those muscles when you're focused on someone else who's walking the
Mm.
same journey. So if you're in a group, if you're in a community, if you have somebody who's also working on this, what I found, Sam, was it was a heck of a lot easier for me to think of those questions in that scenario that we just talked about with you, where I could feel a lot of love for you. I could feel compassion, and I'm not
Yeah.
shaming you. I'm like, it totally makes sense. But I'm curious. I'm practicing like, I'm sure there's something that we can learn from this, even if it's been 1,000 times. And I'm sure that we can breathe some life and some compassion into this wound, into this hurt, into the
Yeah.
frustration of maybe not knowing what to learn from this. And that's a muscle that I want to invite everyone here to not just focus on how do you do this for yourself, how do you master preventing relapses for yourself, how do you turn outwards and help the person next to you, the person in your group, the
Yeah.
people in this
Yeah.
community, everyone listening to this call right now. This is a community. Um, we can do that for each other, even if you're still figuring out for yourself. You don't need a lot of sobriety to figure this out, to be able to be of service to someone else.
You know, I'm gonna hit two things before we're getting close to the end here. Let me hit two things. One, be careful. When you have a slip, it's very easy to go, well, I've already messed up. I might as well just keep going. And you turn a slip into a binge. And a binge is so much more impactful for your neurology, for your psyche, for your, let's face it, your shame, because it often takes you places you never thought you'd go, do things you never wanted to do. And so immediately when you've had a slip, go, okay, I slipped, I made a mistake, that shouldn't have happened, uh, regardless of how much that slip was, how deep that slip went. So at that point, I need, for my myself personally as a Christian, I'm going to go to the throne of God. I'm going to like, God, I'm not waiting to be better, that maybe I'll be worthy later, or that I'll have enough good actions behind me that I can't ask for your mercy and grace. Two, I'm going to call Chandler and say, listen, uh, I really want to just hide this. I want to bury it. I want to forget about it. And or maybe I'll tell you 3 weeks from now. That's a part of that's I'll just put it off for now, and I'm gonna wait, and maybe it'll be okay. No, I'm gonna go to Chandler right away and begin having this conversation. Don't let that slip go to waste. Don't let that fall just create more falls. So imperative to that is recognize I had a slip. I'm going to make some change. Now, two, I kind of walked you through a crash investigation, right? And it was probably pretty quick and maybe didn't gather all the stuff. So I've got two free courses that I've unlocked for the month of November. It's one is what men can learn from a relapse, what men can learn from a relapse. And there's a separate course for women, what women can learn from a relapse. And we're going to put those links in the chat, and you can click on those and you'll have free and open access to those um, right away. You don't even have to sign up for the Victory app to get access. So we want to make sure that, hey, you can learn to do a crash investigation right now, and those will be open through November. And I hope you really find them of value. Easy. There's audio versions for it as well, so you can listen to it while you're driving to work or wherever, or working out, whatever. Okay. So
I
take
just I
advantage
just
of
want to
that.
yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
plus one that like so I remember when I first heard about Covenant Eyes, I was young. Covenant Eyes has been in the space just about longer than anybody, has so much expertise, so many great resources. And yeah, like again, I think now is a great time. We don't need to wait till New Year's to jump on the New Year's resolution bandwagon with everyone else.
Right.
We're going into the holidays, which can be a stressful time.
Oh man, can it be
Um,
stressful?
yeah, and so I know it can be tough too because it might feel like over information overload. I want to do all the things because I am feeling motivated. I do want to be committed. So with that, I would say like yeah, create a plan to carve out the time to do the learning, to engage in these resources, and also give yourself compassion because you're not going to do it all in the next 2 days. So it's a journey. Should we
All
get to
right.
some questions, Sam? I know
Oh yeah,
we've
let's hit
gone a
some
little bit
questions.
longer than we planned, but I'd
Yeah.
rather this session be useful to you guys. So if you need to drop off, we will send out the recording. But I'd really invite any of you guys that want to stay. We'll engage in some Q&A right now. I've got a bunch of things lined up for us, Sam. So let me just scroll through here. I think this first
Yeah.
one would be really helpful. So there's a lot of people that may have somebody in mind, a friend or a family member
Hmm.
that they think they could open up to, but they haven't yet. And so this question
Yeah.
is, how should I go about telling a friend about my struggle? I find there's a lot of shame and guilt around the topic of lust. Thank you for any advice you can give. So how to
Yeah.
broach that conversation. I'm sure it could be its own webinar, but any quick tips you've seen, Sam?
Yeah. I'm gonna offer you a couple of ways to go about this. And one is hopefully you can get a measure of how safe that person is just by asking them a few questions. You know, what do you think is the impact of pornography on people today? Is it, and they'll probably respond in a way that is more gentle than you think. Two, you might have a close friend who's really been there for you many times, or someone you really connect with. And you might ask them, hey, I've got this course in this Victory app. It's a free app, and you just create a little sign in for it if you would. And there's some courses that will help you understand that I've been struggling with pornography, but I want you to have an understanding of why that is. And so there's courses in there about helping allies to be a good ally, gives them training and understanding of how do I have these kind of conversations with someone who's struggling. So you're preparing them, you're giving them guidance about how to do this well. And those courses are all free, by the way. Um, it also leads to things why you really turn to porn, talking about trauma and pain. Why Your Brain Craves Porn. That's another course. Again, all of them have audio so you can listen to them, etc. And I think the knowledge precedes understanding, and understanding precedes change. Let me say that again. Knowledge precedes understanding, and understanding precedes change. And so, as you are learning for yourself and helping your ally learn and grow, they're going to be like, yeah, this is a much bigger problem maybe than I realized. Likely, since 70% of men in the church and 40% of women in the church, they say they have an ongoing struggle with pornography. The likelihood that you're singularly alone just means that a lot of people don't feel very safe. So be bold, step into it, uh, create a safe place. Don't go, you might start meeting for dinner or for lunch or something like that and just have some very basic conversations. But as you go deeper, create a safe environment where you can really be open and honest. Ask for confidentiality. And maybe you need some practice at this. SamsonSociety.com is a great place to have online Zoom meetings where people can be totally open. Relay is helping you with those groups. Covenant Eyes is going to be launching groups. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to engage with others. Does that help, Chandler? Any other thoughts do you have for that?
Totally. I think too, I always say, like, don't just share the struggle. Like, I think in our minds, it's like, I'm going to tell them that I have a problem with this thing. I think you can go way, way further than that and show them your heart. Because it's not that you just have a secret to tell, it's really you have a whole set of experiences, a whole part of your life that this has impacted. So it's not just telling somebody, hey, I look at porn, or I struggle with X, Y, and Z. It's why do you even care about that, or what impact has it had on you, or why has that been difficult? Share those things, because I think my experiences of trying to be vulnerable in that way, and when I first opened up with my wife when we were dating, I tried to let her see my heart. And I told her at the beginning of that conversation, I'm going to share something with you, but I want to share with you a little bit of the backstory and my experience, and kind of what I'm learning about it. And so I did tell her
Mm-hmm.
pornography has been a part of my life for the last X number of years, but I didn't stop there, right? I shared more about, again, the internal experience and what I was discovering about myself and what I still didn't have figured out. And so I think
Mm-hmm.
approaching it more holistically too, rather than just, I'm going to drop this bomb and tell a secret, I think can feel more approachable.
Yeah.
Let's address this question. How do I learn to forgive myself?
Mm.
How do I learn to forgive myself?
Yeah. That is such a varied question because what you're trying to forgive can be very impactful, right? Maybe maybe you've had affairs that have torn apart your family, hurt others. Maybe it's so it could be, hey, I've struggled with pornography to I've had an impact on others that I never wanted to have, right? And so I think that is a journey. I think one is, like you said before, having compassion for that child who saw pornography for the first time and that teenager who found that as a means of their escape. That too, God has compassion for you. I know I'm coming this from a religious Christian perspective, but uh, there's a reason I could sing that song and it would bring mercy to my heart, right? Knowing that despite my actions, God has loved me. Finding safe people and being open and honest with them creates this dynamic that is so healing. Because Chandler, you're going to be very compassionate for me. And that compassion helps me have compassion for myself. As long as I keep all my secrets bottled up to myself, then I am still in hiding. And all of that is just a weight on me. But when I open up and I'm really honest about, hey, I've had these affairs and this is what's been going on. And I take that to a group or a 12-step group or what have you. And I'm really open and vulnerable and honest about what led me there and my commitment to taking action to step away from those behaviors. Man, suddenly I'm becoming I get to become more compassionate for myself because I also get to hear your story. And your story is full of just as much trouble as my story has been, right? And so when I have compassion for you, then suddenly I can feel that compassion for myself because you've shown it to me too. Any other thoughts you'd add to that?
No, I think that's great. I want to keep getting through some of these other ones. There's a
Yeah.
lot of questions coming in.
Huh.
Is having my wife as an accountability partner the best idea? I feel like as much as I want to share with her, it's hard to share my struggles because I don't want to keep hurting her. It's also hard being specific with what I am struggling with. I do have some thoughts on this one, but anything you want to share right off the bat, Sam?
Yeah, we offer this great course. It's called, I thought it was already in there. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. Give you the right name for it. The challenge of being your spouse's ally. This is a another course with audio that you can listen to it, and it walks you through that difficulty. It's often written, listen, here's what would tell you that in general, you, no, not in general. You always need someone other than your spouse to be your ally. That way you can really address the times when you're feeling tempted, not just the times you fell, right? The things you're feeling. Maybe it's even feelings that you're having confrontations with your spouse. So, no, your spouse should not be your only ally. Now, I have to recognize that my behaviors in the past have made some things triggering for my spouse. That, man, I've I've stepped in some things and created some problems and trust issues for my spouse. And so I want to be open with them. And so they get to see what they want to see. Now, I'm going to tell you a story about my own life. I did the same thing when I had covenant eyes decades ago, and I looked over her shoulder one day and I saw all these emails from Covenant Eyes that were unopened. Back then we did accountability by email, and today we do it within the Victory app. But I said, "Don't you ever open those?" And she goes, "No, that's what I got Brian for." So here's some things, some keys to that. What we had done, I had said, "Hey, what do you think about Jim being my ally with Covenant Eyes?" And she goes, "No, Jim's a little bit of a good old boy. I think he's going to just favor you, and he's not going to like really hold you to the fire or whatever it is, or really have honest conversations with you. Fire's not the right word. Well, what about Brian and Chandler? Oh yeah, those guys are really faithful. I think they really care about you and want to see you succeed. I think those would be great allies. So we've gotten to choose those together. I didn't just say this is who I'm choosing and you have to be good with that. There was some agreement and understanding of who my allies were going to be, right? But get that free course, The Challenge of Being Your Spouse's Ally. You'll find it, um, again in the Victory app by Covenant Eyes.
Yep. Yeah, and I know there's a couple other questions just along the theme of like
Yeah.
romantic partners or spouses and how to open up and talk to them. I know we touched on that a little bit, so I think maybe we'll just say,
We
yeah,
also
there's
we also
resources that
offer
go
a
more into
course
that.
about how do I open up, right? So
Mhm.
safe disclosure with a safe process. We walk you through that. How do I really let my spouse know what they're being asked to forgive? So often in relationships, we do this trickle down thing. Well, I spilled a couple of beans out of the pouch, but not all of them. I'm not fully honest, and I haven't. Don't do it in a safe way. I feel really guilty one day, and I just kind of throw up all my garbage. That ain't the way to do it. So you need a safe process and safe people to walk with you in doing that. And
Yeah.
so, but the down thing also is ineffective.
Yes. Okay, quick question from Steve. What about single folks who have yet to meet their partner or spouse? I think Sam shared the magic answer for this earlier. You have to know why you're doing this, and it has to ultimately be for yourself, even if you're
Hmm.
in a relationship. I think a mistake a lot of people make actually is I'm in a relationship, so the motivation's obvious. I need to get my crap together. Otherwise, it's not good. Um, Whether you're single or you're in a relationship, you've got to continue to dig and to cultivate this fire of your why you're doing this, why you want to be healthy, why you want to move beyond these unwanted behaviors. And I think that that's ultimately the, I know it's a generic or broad advice, but what I would say for
I'm gonna
people
I'm gonna
who
throw something
are
else at it too.
sure,
You're not you won't die without sex. Just if you didn't know that, I'm just
you
clarifying
won't
that for
die.
you. And two, uh, marriage or having a life partner isn't you're that's not going to fix it. I've never met a person who were struggling deeply with compulsive behavior, pornography, that when they got married, they suddenly quit. In fact, it's always the opposite. I think that when I was in middle school and when I get to high school, I'll be around more mature people and I'll be able to stop then. And that doesn't work. And they go, well, I'm going to go to college at a Christian college or a religious college and I'll be around more mature people and that doesn't change anything. And then some people go into seminary and they think, well, I'm going to be among the elite, right? That'll really help me change. And that doesn't work. And then they go into ministry themselves. And because, hey, I'm going to be around the most faithful people, that'll help me stop. And that doesn't work either. So get to your reasons why you struggle, get clear, committed, and connected, right? And understand yourself, understand why you struggle, begin taking the steps toward lasting recovery. And then your new relationship is going to be so much better, so much more powerful, and you're not going to have this monkey on your back.
Great advice. Thanks, Sam. Okay. Maybe let's do one or two more here. There's so many questions. Obviously, there's a lot of content here, and that's actually why Sam exists. Sam, if I understand your role at Covenant Eyes
Yeah,
as the director of recovery education, is because there's a lot of topics and a lot of questions and a lot of nuance
that's
that we
right.
simply can't. There's not actually
But I'm
three
gonna,
magic bullet steps, right,
I
to
know I
this. And
keep
so,
saying this over and over, but download the Victory app by Covenant Eyes. It's
yes,
free.
yes,
Once you
yes, yes.
sign up for it, you get access to 50 courses in there, and you're going to be like, oh my goodness, here's the answer to my question. I just found it.
100%.
It's
And I will
really
just say,
great.
because I know a lot of you guys are currently in the Relay app, we don't have a lot of those courses and content. And so, like, please go check those courses out because I 100% uh, know that the knowledge preceding understanding preceding change, right,
Hmm.
is important. Um, so, a lot of people asked about triggers and boundaries and just identifying those. I think we touched on, like, with every opportunity, not just if you have a slip, but
Yeah,
even if you just notice yourself experiencing an urge,
yeah,
I think
sure.
focusing a little bit less on this all or nothing, perfect sobriety is your only indicator of success. I think you got to find ways to view success as I'm becoming more aware of urges. I'm becoming more aware of my emotions. I'm becoming more
Mhm.
aware of what's uh, driving my emotions, right? And so I would say when it comes to managing triggers, regulating emotions, for some of these questions that are around that topic, I think try to set your definition of success to include how much can you learn, how much can you move up the funnel, so to speak, in your awareness of kind of these other things that are going on within you. Because I think that this is a self-discovery journey. This isn't truly like our goal is not just to chop out a behavior from our life. I
Mhm.
think we're trying to really discover more about ourselves to become more whole. And so when we view success that way, then we can make progress, I would say, not just by the number of days I've been clean, but also by how much I'm learning and how I'm moving up that awareness to be in tune with what I really need and how to meet those needs in healthy ways.
Yeah. Um,
Okay. Any last thoughts, Sam? Closing thoughts before we wrap it up here.
all right, couple of things. We shared some links with a link with you to the two courses. Those will take you directly to a web version of the app. So you have both the web version of the Victory by Covenant Eyes as well as you can download it to your device. No, you will not find those courses on the Covenant Eyes website. They're just not there. They are in within the Victory app sphere, whether that's the web version or the app version, right? So I just want to make sure that you had those. I saw that
Yes. And
question in the
please take it
comments.
like please make sure to use like because we're doing this November initiative, use the November 30 code when you sign up. Because Covenant Eyes is supporting this November initiative and we want to be able to do this again next year so that more people can come in and get support and to be able to feel hope for the first time.
Now,
So yeah, use that
Chandler,
and
we've had go ahead. I'm sorry.
go ahead. I was just going to say use the code on the screen to make sure that you take advantage of the free resources that we're offering.
Listen, I'm going to spring something on Chandler right here, and he's going to like, oh my goodness, Sam, what are you doing to us? If
I'm
you would
excited
like to
now.
see another conversation like this, like in this week of November or in this month of November, would you let the team at Relay know and say, hey, this was a good conversation. I'd like to see another conversation. I think this would be really helpful.
Yeah, and topic suggestions too. Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
because like
Chandler's
if
all
you found
in.
the stories that Sam, I love Sam's stories. I remember the first time I heard Sam speak, I was sitting at the UCAP convention, Sam, here in Utah, and I was just in the back and I was just listening to your stories, and then I lost track of time. I love Sam's stories, but some of you guys might want Sam to show up with slides that have all the answers next time and tell us all the hidden secrets to how do we master this thing. So yeah, please feel free to let us know if there's topics that you think would be helpful that we can do more stuff like this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chandler, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much,
Everyone
Sam.
that's
We
been
appreciate.
listening today, thank you for showing up and being part of this.
Yes.
I'm just thankful for your commitment to this recovery and change. Take one step at a time. Have compassion for yourself and press on with
All right.
others.
Thanks,
Don't try to
everybody.
do it by yourself.
Yes. Don't do it alone. We're in this together. See you guys.
Thank you.